Tonight on The Ronnie Show. I keep on wanting to call it Lake Mantrap, Minnesota, but it was Mantrap Lake, Minnesota. So that's where we were.
That's exactly how I feel. That's exactly how I feel. Yeah, exactly how I woke up this morning outside of the bed. I don't have to explain it. Might be might make a friend. Ain't I so amazing? Love me or hate me.
Good afternoon, actually, and welcome everybody to The Ronnie Show. So glad you could be with us here today. Well, we have got a big show planned. As you know, I was out of town over this past weekend, and yeah, I'm going to tell you all a little bit about it. So let's go, and let's get into it. Ugh. Okay, yes. Alrighty, well, let's get into it. So as you guys know, I was up out of town this past weekend. I was in, well, see, that's the thing. I keep on wanting to call it, well, and I'm not sure what city it's in, or if it even has a city, or if it's the city itself, but I keep on wanting to call it Lake Mantrap, Minnesota, but it was Mantrap Lake, Minnesota. So that's where we were. That's where I was this past weekend, as well as 5 other of my family members and friends. So, yeah, well, the one is not really my friend. It was a friend of my cousin's who she brought along. So, yeah. But anyway, we all got along. I'll just say that. Yeah. So we left home mid-afternoon. That Thursday, this past Thursday, and we went up, we stopped and ate dinner. Well, it was at a gas station, but it was at like a giant convenience store, really, because it had a Caribou Coffee, it had a Pizza Hut, it had a Subway in it, along with, I mean, it had like its own dining area. Like, when you walked in, one side was the dining area with the Subway, the Pizza Hut, and all that, and on the other side it had like your regular convenience store. So I thought, holy smokes, that's already a million times cooler than Quick Trip, which I kind of gotten into that now a little bit as of late. Good or bad, I guess. Good and bad, I should say. So, yeah, we got there at, well, just a little after 9 o'clock at night, and yeah, and safe to say, I'm going to show a video now. Yeah, that video, that was taken after we had gotten there. I think it was about 9:30 or 9:45, so as you can see, the daylight was still pretty significant. So, yeah, that was quite nice. You could easily walk out onto the dock and, you know, just fine. You know, you don't need any lights or anything like that. So that was the really nice thing about that. Something I did like. Yeah, I should say this. I didn't really have too many expectations going into it. I just thought, you know, it's going to be just like a regular, well, I kind of had thoughts in my head as to, you know, what it was going to be like. You know, we were going to go to this house. I wouldn't really consider it a cabin because it was basically, it had 2 bathrooms, 2 bedrooms. I mean, a pretty typical small house. So that's why I'm calling it a house. So yeah, I went in, and, you know, I wasn't expecting a whole house, basically. I'll just say that. I mean, because I thought it was going to be more of like a log cabin where it was going to be like smaller and, you know, all that, but it wasn't really. So, excuse me. I don't know why I'm so tired today, but yeah, so that's kind of what I thought I was getting into, but no, that it was just, I could not have predicted anything. I couldn't have predicted what I saw, so that was really nice. But yeah, you go in, and then when you walk out, it's basically, you get a whole area where, you know, there's like a campfire and seating next to it, and then there was like a picnic table and a little trailer kind of out in the distance, but you know, still, I mean, I was not expecting any of that, to be quite honest with you. I thought it was just going to be, you know, hey, we have this little cabin, you know, you walk out, like, yeah, you get like your little area for the campfire, and then you get to walk out. Really just that. But yeah, it was that and more, I must say. So yeah, I'm definitely, if I'm not back up there by the time summer's over, there's something wrong with me. I'll just say that. And safe to say, I might be purchasing a lake house in the future. No, I'm kidding. I don't know if I'll do that, but it was really that nice that if I had feelings of that, and that was my first time up there, that really says a lot right there. And I'm not just saying that because, you know, my family owns it or anything like that, you know, because like I said, I had never been up there before. So, and my uncle, I think he said, well, my uncle and aunt actually they have a sign that says, you know, basically blah 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 blah, you know, and it actually says like since 2021 or something like that. So yeah, obviously they haven't owned it for very long, but they do go up there. I wouldn't say very often, but you know, they go up there a few times during the summer, a couple of times during winter, because my one cousin is big into fishing. So yeah, I'm sure that's pretty much all he goes up there for. But yeah, whether it's like ice fishing or, you know, fishing, like, I don't even know what you would consider this time because there's no ice, you know, just regular fishing, I guess. Just that simple. So yeah, that was the other really nice thing too that I got to do as well. I think I might have became a fisherman, and I'll tell you more about that when we come back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody. Now, this would normally be the time where we would have our game of the day. However, we're not going to do that. This video, I must say, and I forgot to say it before we started talking before the last commercial break, I forgot to mention that I actually wanted to film this on, well, kind of right next to the shore on Mantrap Lake. However, though, the weather just was not cooperative. I'll just say that. And we definitely spent like a lot more time outside with my family and stuff, so I just couldn't really get a chance to. Although I am hoping the next time I am up there, because like I said, if I don't go back up there, by the time summer's over with, there's going to be something wrong. So yeah, I'm hoping, you know, we will get a full, whether it's the Ronnie show, although you did see, and I'll get to that here in a second on my card, I did actually do Game 4 of the NBA Finals from up there on the, well, it wasn't in the lake house that, you know, I was staying in. It was in the one next door, which they were, I'll say this, I'm very grateful that they allowed me to do that. So, yeah, that was very nice. So, yeah, Friday, we got up, you know, had breakfast, hung out, played some games, you know. So, yeah, and then we had lunch at this one restaurant called Zorba's. Now, the friend that my cousin had brought up with her, I guess she had been up where we were or somewhere in our area, I think it was 4 or 5 times, and she had never been to Zorba's before. So, yeah, it was kind of fun that she got to experience that, I guess. But it was like a massive, well, I shouldn't say it was massive, but it was a pretty good-sized restaurant, I must say, because it was kind of interesting, because when you walk in, and it's like all made out of wood, like on the outside, it's amazing. But like when you walk in immediately into like the bar area, like where the bar is, and I thought that was kind of interesting. But then once you get past that and you look in, and you could choose where you wanted to sit, like when you walked in, you saw like all these tables and chairs, like it was crazy. Like it could probably fit 200 or 300 people. I mean, it was that crazy absurd. Yeah, but they had that. Plus, they had like a gaming area. You stepped down a couple of steps, and you were in the gaming area. So, but it had a whole bunch of like arcades and, you know, air hockey table, stuff like that. My grandma must be cooking something that smells really good. That's all I'm going to say. And if I could smell that when the doors are shut in there, like, that really says a lot. But anyway, so yeah, that was nice. I had a combo burrito. So it was cheese and beans, and I think I had beef or chicken. I don't really remember which one. But yeah, that was good. And I had a couple of pieces of pizza too. And those were really good. I mean, I'll definitely be there again for sure. Although I'd like to go during the nighttime when, you know, it's dinner time, because, you know, there's a lot more people there. It'll be lively. I guess they even have live bands there because they did have a stage set up, and they have, like I said, they have live bands and stuff like that. So that would be really cool to experience as well. And then after that, our family went shopping in a town called Park Rapids. Like their main street, they've got a whole bunch of shops for everything. There was, I think, 3 blocks it was at least, so like a mile and a half or so. Like you walk down and there were all of these shops. I mean, it was really... Sorry, I got something in my eye. I mean, really, there was a whole bunch of... Like, there was a candy shop. I think there was like a mini auditorium or a mini theater. At least it was set up like that on the outside, where they have the sign, you know, kind of in a triangle like that, and it says text on either side. Yeah, it was like that. And then there was, I think, like a... What was the one store we went into that was across from the candy shop? It was like a steel shop, but it was like steel stencils of like certain random things. So there was that. And then we went into like a little, I don't know what you would call it. Like it wasn't really a Goodwill type of thing. It wasn't really like a Goodwill. It was like a... It was called Ben Franklin. It's kind of like a games and puzzles and fabric and children's stuff, and it was kind of quite a lot. And yeah, I bought a couple of games there. I bought Pressure Luck and the Pressure Luck game, and then I also bought a Card Sharks, the new version of Card Sharks. So yeah, well, I can't wait to play that with my family. So, yeah, I mean, it was just crazy. And then there was like a restaurant with like a gourmet popcorn type place. It was crazy, the amount of stores and all the different varieties there was in there. And then after that, we went home, didn't really do much of anything. We had dinner. My uncle grilled some burgers and hot dogs. So yeah, that was basically it. And then I broadcasted the game. Now, we weren't really sure where I was going to broadcast it at. Initially, we were going to... There's like a cabin next door to where the house was. It was in between where my uncle and aunt's lake house was and the other lake house that was kind of on the other side of this little cabin. Basically, they're neighbors. So in between them, there was this cabin, although it's more towards the neighbor's house than our house. But they know each other pretty good. My uncle and aunt and the couple that owns it, they know each other pretty well. So it doesn't really matter, to be quite honest with you. Although we had to let them know first that, you know, I was going to do that, and yeah, they said they were okay with it. So yeah, initially it was going to be in there in what they called the widow's cabin. I guess it was, well, quite an old cabin, I must say. And when you walked in, there was like a mini dining area with a bitty kitchen. That was when you walked in and walked straight. But then when you got... Well, if you turned left, there was like 6 mattresses for like beds. There was 3 on the floor, and then there was like a little loft that had 3 more beds where you could sleep in. And then there was like a little, once you kept going through that, there was like an area of, I don't even know, a whole bunch of miscellaneous, like you can build stuff or something like that. It was really quite strange, I'll just say that. And then they had like a tiny bathroom in there, so yeah. So that's initially where we thought I was going to broadcast. which would have been really cool. And wouldn't have been any big deal to me. However, then all of a sudden the thought came up of, oh, let's do it in the next door neighbor's house because they won't be up there for the weekend. So yeah, it turned into that, and yeah, it was really, it wasn't as big as my uncle and aunt's lake house, but it was still a decent size. It had a living room, it had a kitchen, it had a bedroom, okay, hold on, let me say this again. It had like a kitchen, a dining room, a living room, it had a bedroom in it, it had a bathroom, and that's really all you really need for a lake house, I think, personally. But yeah, it was definitely a lot smaller, the ceilings were lower, but yeah, I didn't really have any problem with it. And then, of course, we came on later because of the Wi-Fi. I didn't have any internet in there, although I will say, while I was in the widow's cabin, I still had a pretty good internet connection to my uncle and aunt's lake house, so I would have, at the time, I would have rather did it in there instead of, the next door neighbors, but, it is what it is. And like I said, had they not known each other as well as they did, we probably wouldn't have even broadcasted. And if this wasn't, here's the thing, they kind of invited me and my grandma to come up at the worst possible time because there was the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup and they still are going on, right? Well, the Stanley Cup might have been awarded last night as this is airing. We're filming this on Monday. This is airing Wednesday. So, yeah, it could have been awarded, but the NBA Finals is still going on. So, honestly, if those two things weren't going on, you probably wouldn't have seen any kind of live streams going on this past weekend. And I'm sure, like I said, next time I go up, hopefully it won't be around that time, and I won't have to worry about that, and I could just worry about having a great time and doing an episode of The Ronnie Show from up there. Yeah, so that's what I'm hoping for the next time. Although, yeah, so that's all I'm going to say on that. Saturday, we went to this convenience store it was a convenience store and like a little cafe. Well, it wasn't really a cafe, but it was like a diner. It was in a city called Emmaville. I'm going to just pause for a minute and have you guess how many people you think live in Emmaville. Well, I'll tell you. Because my uncle said it was the biggest little city in the world. Obviously, he was joking because that's Reno, Nevada. But it was this little city called Emmaville with a population of 3 people. Only 3 people live there. Like I said, it was a convenience store along with a diner. It was connected on. And I guess the 3 people that live there are the people that own that. So I think it was this mother and son, I'm going to assume, that was in there the one day we were there. And I think the house that they live in is even attached to the store. So can't you just imagine, waking up 15 minutes before you need to go to work and boom, get ready, take a shower, do all that. Because all that I could do in less than 10 minutes. From the time I wake up to the time I finish showering, I can do that in less than 10 minutes. So, yeah, so that was something really cool. Something I was not expecting. And then our uncle took us on a tour of the city. Now, in a town of 3 people, you probably think that it wouldn't be very big. For as many people as there was living in that town, it should have been a whole lot bigger than it was. But there is like a mini campground and like a mini hotel. That's not where I would have picked to go on vacation. I'm just going to say that. And especially when the diner is only open especially when the diner closes at 2 o'clock every single day. Where are you going to go to? I guess you could go down to Park Rapids, but still, yeah. And then we came back, after we did that, and I took a boat ride around Lake See, I was going to call it Lake Mantrap again. Mantrap Lake. There we go. That's how you say it. And I didn't really think much, I didn't really think we were going to see a whole lot. We pretty much went around the whole entire lake, except for, like, the big part of it. Because it was, or at least the part of the lake that was the most open, because it was really windy and cold out there. So we just did not want to take that chance of doing that. So we didn't do that. We just kept on rolling, like Fred Durst, keep rolling, like that. And we did that. We were out there, I'd say, probably for 20 minutes, half an hour, maybe at the most. And it was still, like I said, it was still windy. It was cloudy. It was in the mid-60s. Like, it was really cold. So we did that. We came back, just kind of relaxed for a little while. And then we came back again. And then my cousin and her friend, we all went out again onto the boat, all the 6 of us that were there, and we fished. And luckily by then, the temperature had rose up dramatically. All the clouds were basically gone. I mean, don't get me wrong, there were still a few clouds, but it wasn't as, cloudy. Like, there was maybe 3 or 4 clouds in the sky, but that was it. So yeah, it was beautiful weather for fishing and for swimming. So yeah, that was really nice. And then we had grilled cheese sandwiches for dinner. That was nice. And then we made some s'mores. I even did a little fishing of my own. And yeah, safe to say I caught 6 fish. Although I think maybe 3 or 4 of those times I caught the same fish. Although I did catch a bluegill at one point. I don't know any fish terminology. See, this is why I wanted my one cousin up there with us. And apparently he might have gone. But he had plans, I guess, back here in Sioux Falls. So he didn't end up going. But this is why we needed him there, so that he could tell us what we caught. Because my cousin and her friend didn't know. I didn't know. My uncle didn't really even know. So it was just, we were all clueless pretty much. That's basically what I'm trying to say. So yeah. Anyway, that was that. And then, I forgot to tell you, earlier on in the day on the boat, on the first boat ride I went on, we caught a deer in the lake. I swear to God. Watch the video. This is oh my. Holy smokes. I feel like David Attenborough doing this.
That is crazy. That thing swam all the way across. It's too far to jump. I was looking at that from a distance thinking that doesn't look like a loon.
Well, and if it did,
Oh, there it goes.
I thought he was.
I've got that.
He's gotta be tired. Wow. That's the first.
Do you suppose he deer paddled?
So, yeah, that was obviously quite interesting. Something I was not expecting to see, to be quite honest with you. I think my uncle even said in the video, if you went out 100 times in the lake, you probably weren't going to see that. And I actually looked at the map, because when we had gotten back, he had kind of pointed out where we had gone and where we had seen the deer. I think, if I remember correctly, where we had seen the deer, it was going to another island. So it was going to have to cross more water in order to get on the land, like actual land, and into the woods. So, and it looked like a younger deer too. So, yeah, it was just, it was kind of bemusing. I gotta say that. It was funny. I'll just say that. Although you kind of felt bad for the little deer too, just because it was out of place. But, what could you do? What can you do? We'll be back. Welcome back, everybody. I'm now going to share with you a whole bunch of videos and other pictures I took while I was up there, just of the amazing scenery, and it was just beautiful. I gotta say that. So here it is. Oh.
That one's kind of majestic. Yeah, that was a good one to get.
Oh, this one's gonna fly. Oh, such fun times. Fun times. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Well, what did we learn here tonight? I think it's that I'll be back. I'll be back. Can't remember who said that in which movie, but yeah, I'll be back up there. That is for sure. Thank you so much for watching us here today. Coming up next, magic numbers right here on RVN. Bye-bye. Closed captioning is brought to you in part by